special pricing on everything. And now, our main man and big vitamin fan, Adam Freeman.
Well, a very, very good evening and welcome to the Monday Night Show. We are indeed live in Henderson, Nevada, the site of the incredible facility by Mr. Andrew Lessman. Andrew, sir, here we go again.
I can't believe it. A Monday Night Show. When was the last time we did this?
This was, what, 2 months ago, 3 months ago?
I think January, almost 4 months ago.
Boy, time flies.
Time flies, yes.
But
Tell me about it, yes.
It always is so intriguing being here. For the past 5 minutes, I've just been looking at everybody because we're seeing this live in action.
Oh, and I guess I get this question. It's sort of funny that whether those are prop bottles and those are actors behind me, and they're not actors. This is actually our facility. We didn't rent the facility, and we actually built the studio. The glass is at a very particular angle, so it doesn't reflect. Also diminishes the sound from behind us because actually production is a fairly noisy process. So we are actually in our facility that we built here in Henderson, Nevada, actually 20 years ago. Wow. And all the roof of the building that we're in, very large building, several 100,000 square feet, entirely covered with solar panels. We have images of that. And then the parking lot out there where we all park, that is covered about 5 or 6 acres, entirely covered with solar panels. Also very energy efficient and nice to get in your car after it isn't too hot after the summers we have here in Nevada. So this is actually where we do everything. So it's, I think, a unique privilege, especially in this day and age where products, we don't even get to go to stores anymore often. We buy things, we bought things off television, now we buy things off the internet. So what do they say? It's sort of the end of bricks and mortar shopping. So many of us don't really have a company that we can connect to when we're getting a product. I know I often feel that way. So I love doing these shows because for me, it's a chance for me to show you exactly where all your products are made. Yes. When you see the machines, you're seeing the exact machines that make the product and the people that make the products that you enjoy at home. So it's a privilege for me.
And I tell you, Andrew and I love doing these because this really is a conversation about health. It's a conversation about you. We'll showcase wonderful products that are there to help aid our life and our lifestyle. But folks, tonight our goal is to answer as many questions as possible, to go through as many of the different really parts of the Andrew Lessman family that are available always online at hsn.com, but also maybe help inspire you to try something new if there's a particular thing that's happening in your life. Maybe it's stress, maybe you're not sleeping well, maybe you've got achy joints. We have something for absolutely everybody. And of course, later on, we will go on a truly in-depth tour of the facility so you can see how it all works. I'm going to throw Andrew a lot of curveball questions, as I always love to do as well.
Oh, that's
Andrew,
great. Maybe I could leave now.
I know, I've written them all down, no peeking.
Lincoln's not here. Lincoln is my stand-in, and he's not here. So,
Andrew's like
my dog, Lincoln.
We love Lincoln when he's here. But there are a lot of questions, Andrew, especially these days when it comes to what we can do to help the stresses in our life.
And it's funny, because recently that is a question that anyone who sees me that might take my products or knows what I do, it's a constant question. It's one of those you hear all the time. You hear stress, you hear about thyroid, you hear about blood pressure, you hear about blood sugar. You know, we'll try to cover as many of these. Of course, vitamin supplements aren't drugs or medicines, and in terms of stress, the most important thing to do about stress is how we perceive the situations that are stressful. We can't make the world go away. We could change how we see the world and react differently. And I know we've all experienced times where we might have surprised ourselves, where things that really should have stressed us didn't because of the way we perceived them, the way we handled them. Certainly things like meditation or whatever we might call it in our world, calming ourselves with breathing, that can help us handle stress, and it's been proven that physiologically there's less consequences to that stress. The reason why I started with valerian here is many people resort to medications for the stress and pressure and anxiety of daily life. And certainly this is not a drug or medicine, but it's something that has a history of being used to help us contend with those feelings of edginess that are sort of unavoidable in modern life. I mean, mine is a very, very busy modern life. It's probably why I have, just for survival, why I exercise, why I meditate, because so much of my life is so crazy and busy that a human body, a human organism needs some time to relax. And it's not just sleep, because if we expect sleep to be the solution to all of the craziness of our days, And we're going to find our sleep isn't that relaxing. So we really have to find an active way during the day to actively help us handle what we contend with on a daily basis. And there's some wonderful thinkers and books and writers that give us all sorts of tools for how we could perceive our life in a less stressful way, in a less helpless way. And I think it's important to think that, or to know, that how we feel is determined by us, that others aren't responsible for how we feel. It sounds easier said than done, but it actually is true. That you could see many people with just the most incredible hardships in life,
right,
and they have the best attitude imaginable, better than I have on my best day. So it's possible, and we just have to try to find it within ourselves to take those little baby steps. And certainly, in terms of what we give our body, you need to follow your doctor's guidance and directions. With valerian, all I do is offer a product that has been tested with time. It certainly isn't a drug or a medicine, but it's something that has soothing, relaxing effects. It's something that I have found is beneficial, and the reviews on the product validate that it actually does help.
So Andrew, how does that differ then to our next one, which is the PS200?
That's a very interesting question. And because we have to look at stress from two standpoints. Yesterday, we were talking about lutein and zeaxanthin in our Ultimate Eye. And actually, lutein and zeaxanthin, because of their protective role in the brain as well as our eyes, has been shown to help in terms of the consequences or the fallout from stress in our brain. What phosphatidylserine is, what we start with valerian when I talked about that initially, valerian helps us in terms of relaxing our nervous system. And that's one of the first steps to dealing with stress and dealing with our lives better. That's what we try to do with breathing, where we slow our breathing. We breathe in more slowly, we hold it for an instant, we breathe out more slowly. Just controlled breath has been physiologically proven to relax us and to reduce the consequences of stress. So valerian is something that's designed and intended to help relax us, to be soothing. What phosphatidylserine does, it goes more to the chemistries of our cells. It's not going to have us, and it's often misrepresented what phosphatidylserine does. It's not going to make you feel per se less stressed or less stressful. What phosphatidylserine does is go to the biochemical consequences of stress, one of them being cortisol production. We need cortisol. It's an essential chemical in our body that's part of how we basically relate and react to the world. But cortisol levels becoming too high have consequences, sort of like we often say that about glucose, that we need glucose, we need a blood sugar level to keep alive and to sustain energy production to some degree. But once glucose levels become too high because we're not managing it appropriately with our insulin metabolism or whatever the cause, it has consequences. Our body likes everything, all its different levels, right in that proper range. Cortisol, unfortunately, the kinds of lives we lead with all the stress and all the demands, cortisol levels tend to be too high, which have consequences. Phosphatidylserine has just been shown to help moderate those cortisol levels. So it's a product that really is geared for helping us deal with the consequences of stress. It also happens that phosphatidylserine is the principal phospholipid in our brain. Phosphatidylserine, phosphatidylcholine. So like all my products, it's not just something you take and you worry about side effects. It's something you take and you basically can learn about more of the benefits it delivers because they're natural molecules that play an inherent or an essential role in our bodies.
And as we move on to our next one, which is Nighttime, a beloved product from Andrew's line. Andrew, it kind of brings me to picking up on what you were just saying about you, for example, you meditate, you take time out for yourself. Right. We talk about stress levels here in the United States. How does that differ from, let's say, East versus West? If we go to Asia right now, do people there experience the same levels of stress as we do?
Well, I think if you ever visit Japan or Tokyo, or just you could go online and watch films of like commuter hours in Tokyo, that will cause stress. But I think what has been delivered from many Eastern cultures, whether we're looking at India or Japan or China, they tend to have cultures that prize meditation, that prize quiet time. It's something what I do. I try to commune with nature. It's something that Lincoln, fortunately, my dog, forces me because I want to be a good owner to my dog. I make sure that I go outdoors and get my exercise with him every day, weather permitting, sometimes twice a day. So it forces me to do things rather than continuing to look at my computer or look at my smartphone or being on the phone and dealing with business issues and things like that. I'm blessed to have this company. This company is something that is the perfect job for me, but at the same time, it's something that, as my parents would be the first people to say, that I spend too much time working here. I spend too much time devoted and committed to my work. So balance is something we all need sometimes to struggle to achieve. Certainly I do, and it's something I work on, and that's why I actually carve out time. First thing in the morning, I meditate. Before I start my day, before I touch my computer, I go out in the yard, and Lincoln and I, we sit down and we meditate together. So it's, I'm not sure if he's meditating, but he certainly seems calm. So I think it's up to us. It's certainly not part of our Western way of living, and some of the most wonderful books I've read about finding a more peaceful path in life have been written by Eastern teachers. So this is not Eastern religion versus Western religion. This is just a philosophy of finding peace, and that the way we find peace is by leading a peaceful life, by being a peaceful person. Because I think, what is it? The first rule of Buddhism, or what Buddha says, is life is suffering. That we have to realize that life delivers great happiness, but life also delivers suffering. And it's the degree to which we contend with that balance between those two that determines the quality and the happiness of our life.
And I think one of those areas where, you know, a lot of us are struggling is at night. When we've had a hard day at work, when we've been running around after the kids, we want to lay down and feel some peace, but a lot of us find it hard to switch off.
No, even for me, last night, I didn't sleep well last night because Lincoln, when he's here, he have a pool here in the house and has all these rocks around the pool, and he's 9 years old. He's leaping from rock to rock to rock like he's 6 months old still. And so yesterday, while he wasn't on TV, his back was hurting him a little bit. So of course, when he would change position in bed, he would whimper a little bit. So it's like, if my back was hurting me, I'd sleep. If my dog's back is hurting him, it really is disruptive to me. So it's just indicative of, I mean, all of the different things in our worlds, and different things weigh on us differently, but life is a constant onslaught of issues, and it seems like the moment we lay down to go to sleep, we're no longer distracted by dealing with the issues of our day, and that's when they just come rolling into our brain, and it's almost like watching a video of all the issues that are left outstanding, the things we haven't resolved, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it might be. So I think so many of us have forgotten the ability to turn off our brain the way a little child does. Turn off our brain and go to sleep. And we had to learn to do that as a child, because as infants, we struggle to go to sleep. So it's interesting that so much of the quality of our next day is directly related to being able to turn off from the day before and just go to sleep. This product, again, not a drug, not a medicine. Those should be used with the utmost of caution, simply because most of them, or I'm not aware of a single one of the medications for sleep that doesn't undermine the very chemistry of sleep. Certainly we need to sleep, and if your doctor recommends taking them, you have to do that. But whether it's undermining melatonin synthesis or the various chemistry of sleep that ensures we get a restful night and repair our body, including our brain and nervous system, we have to very carefully weigh the benefits from using those drugs and use them as judiciously as possible, and work with a doctor perhaps who has an alternative perspective that could help us do so and go to sleep in a more healthy fashion. But just as we were talking about valerian a moment ago, nighttime is designed to gently and naturally create a soothing environment for you to go to sleep. It's not going to knock you out and put you to sleep. It still is up to you to lay down in bed, close your eyes, relax, and do whatever it is. And there's all sorts of things you can do. And I often talk about something called sleep hygiene, which sleep hygiene means that we respect the environment of sleep. Our bedrooms should be dark, and our bedrooms should be cool. We sleep better when it's cool. So and even if we work graveyard and might be sleeping during the day, dark is important. All the different blinking LEDs and things like that in our room, we should tape them over or make them go away. That the quality of our sleep requires, the best quality requires that light is not getting into our body through our eyelids, and
right.
Those LEDs blinking and things like that will have an impact. It's been shown in research. So there's a lot of things we could do to create a hygienic, a clean sleep environment for it. And that really talks in terms of clean in terms of cleanliness, but a clean, hygienic environment in terms of not having any of the stimuli or other things that might otherwise distract from or detract from the quality of our sleep. So, and again, nighttime, we use a number of ingredients, as you could see here. We don't use any of them at very high levels, because the goal of nighttime isn't to depend on any one of them to knock you out, but to use these natural tools at very moderate levels to simply gently create an environment, create the conditions where you can naturally go to sleep. And the reviews for a product that might be reviewed harshly, you would think, because it comes with expectations called nighttime. I think it's reviewed at something like 4.1, 4.2 stars, something like that. It's got about over 80% positive reviews.
And that gives you some encouragement and inspiration to say, I'm going to try this. With all of Andrew's products, there is 30 days. Please, we encourage you to give it a go. If you don't find that it works for you, return it and get a 100% refund of the purchase price. What's exciting about tonight is that you are also benefiting from all the special pricing for Andrew's visit as well.
And my goal, and this is why I love doing this show with Adam, my goal isn't really to, I love the products I make, and I couldn't make them any better than I do, and all I do is focus on the research to constantly improve them. Nighttime alone in probably 20 years has gone through more than a dozen reformulations where we continue to improve it. But my goal is to provide, because I live reading the research and the science, trying to find a healthy path for me through my life, my goal is to be able to share that. So when I have the privilege of being on HSN, it's not just about my products. And life is really about eating well and living well. Dietary supplementation takes a backseat to healthy diet, a backseat to healthy lifestyle. So as important as you might think that I think dietary supplements are because I make them and dedicate my life to making them, they take a back seat behind eating well, which is what I love to talk about, and living well, which so much about living well, we don't give ourselves credit for the power we have to really influence and to control how we feel and how we move through the world. We're incredibly powerful when it comes to our lives and it comes to our own feelings.
Well, we're going to head over to the other side of our studio to talk about another one of Andrew's products, which is Ultimate Women's Wellness. And Andrew, this kind of leads me to another topic that I really find fascinating in terms of your business ethos, the way you conduct things. We are all very susceptible to media and advertising, commercials and flashy packaging and everything else. How hard has it been for you to break through that to people by simply saying, what I choose to do is invest in the integrity of the ingredients?
Well, I really haven't tried. I think it's almost impossible to break through the influence that this trillion-dollar marketplace of prescription drugs might have, this trillion-dollar marketplace of healthcare. So I love to, as they say, preach to the choir.
Right.
For those of us who are curious about finding another path, and we basically have we have zero advertising budget at my company, so it's not like I'm competing with any of these big companies. I'm privileged to find myself at HSN, but more than anything, my company has grown over the last 38 years, not because of me, not because of HSN, but because of you. Our company grows simply because you tell other people about our products. Yes. And I've always had the confidence and faith that if I make the best products in the world and I provide information that allows people to assess those products, that the products will do their own thing, and that those products will then encourage other people to try those products. So it's been a different approach. Ultimate Women's Wellness is fascinating. This is our monthly special. I do this because it's our most popular focused women's product. It's a product that it's Mother's Day in May, so I figured it would be the perfect monthly special for May.
Yes.
And it's a product that when I first introduced it, it kind of showed the lack of influence I have and the powerful influence that the pharmaceutical and medical industries have.
Right.
Because this is a product that focuses on the symptoms of menopause and perimenopause, a bit on PMS as well, but really menopause and perimenopause, that's where the product is at its best, and that's where the reviews are most remarkable. But when I first introduced this product, and again, I talk about things that probably dates me or ages me, and because I started my company 38 years ago, when I first introduced this product well over 20 years ago, I could not speak about, even though I knew the incredible benefits it had for the symptoms, hot flashes, night sweats, interruptions of sleep, I couldn't speak to those things. Because whether I like the law or not, I respect the law. And at that time, the law was, going back over 20 years ago, that if something is a symptom of a disease, you can't offer a supplement to mitigate or to treat that symptom of a disease. And the reason I'm saying that is because at that time, menopause and perimenopause, of all things, was considered a disease. I think the drug companies are always out looking for a new disease, but it's amazing that at that time, I think what's wonderful that's changed is now so many more women are involved in the medical profession, the medical field, our physicians themselves, in the regulatory fields as well, that the outrageousness of that position, that menopause and perimenopause were a disease and you couldn't offer product to help with that because that would be treating a disease, that's changed. So now, fortunately, but it doesn't change the way things are with other dietary supplements. It just means that this bit of unreasonableness is gone. So, but as I said, it's for me, I mean, fortunately, I'm not like the big pharma companies. I don't aspire to be a big company. I just aspire to be the size that we comfortably can be, and that's it. And when it comes to Ultimate Women's Wellness, it's a product that if you read the reviews, you will see that whether it's hot flashes, night sweats, interruptions of sleep, the mood disruptions, and every woman experiences menopause and perimenopause differently. I remember when I talked about this 25 years ago, I used to almost apologize for the medical industry because it almost made women, and it might seem weird to think about this today, seem weak because they had symptoms of menopause or perimenopause, right. That it almost seemed as though it was their fault. But we now know today that hormones exert perhaps the most powerful influence on how we feel. And so it's no wonder that these disruptive changes in hormones that occur in the 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever age might be, will cause, it would be unreasonable to think that it wouldn't be highly disruptive. And of course, as I said, every woman experiences this differently. The letter, this is before the age of emails, the letter I remember receiving was from someone who said before they were using our Women's Wellness at the time, before their experience, the way they described perimenopause was not being on a roller coaster as many would describe it, but being on a roller coaster blindfolded, which is a whole nother thing. Because if you're on a roller coaster, at least you see where you're going. As crazy it might be, you might see where you're going. But if you're blindfolded, you have no clue. And it was a really insightful, and so many of the letters and emails that we received, it's something that I think the medical profession, with men at the helm, there wasn't a lot of empathy or compassion. Now there is. And Ultimate Women's Wellness is a great natural tool. If you're going to use hormones, do it with a reputable, responsible, knowledgeable physician who makes sure you're using bioidentical hormones, because I was someone also 25 years ago railing against the synthetic hormones that have since been proven to have caused countless cancers in women. So make sure you do it with bioidentical hormones and with a responsible physician or endocrinologist who knows what they're doing. So.
Well, talking of a roller coaster, we're going to head back over this way. I think, Andrew, it's like 20. You can tell
I'm not talking much about our products, but I think more important, as I say, than the products is understanding what's going on in our lives, what's going on in our bodies, because I think to the extent we can partner better with our doctors, we will be healthier. Our doctors will be able to treat us better if we are able to give them better information, give them more options, and work together with them. Yes.
Andrew, as we move on to cranberry, and this is another wonderful customer favorite.
Actually, I didn't do that on purpose, but this is great for men and women, but women were aware of the role that cranberry could play long before men were. And men, of course, now, men, we're all living older, and men, we have issues with our prostate, which also makes us more aware of our urinary tract, bladder, and things like that. So men also now have a great appreciation for the incredible power of the cranberry. And unfortunately, as powerful as cranberries are, if you try eating them without dousing them with sugar, they're probably the most tart, bitter fruit you would ever imagine eating, which is why, I know we have a bottle of cranberry juice here. Typical of any cranberry juice is, I think, a cup is 140 calories. Wow. I think it's about the same amount of calories as whole milk. The only difference with cranberry juice is that it's all sugar. The only way they make that palatable, and it is delicious, is by just loading it up with sugar. And frankly, for the health of our urinary tract, bladder, kidneys, for health of the way we manage blood sugar in our body, the last thing we want to do is be consuming a few glasses a day of that and consuming literally 100 to 200 grams of sugar. It's not in the best interest of our bladder, kidneys, and urinary tract, nor in our body weight, nor in virtually any system in our body.
But the root of this, the cranberry, is very good for you, so this is a wonderful way to do it. Andrew, it leads me to quality assurance and control. How difficult a task is that for you to achieve your high standards?
Well, because of the investment we've made, it's not difficult for us. It's not a problem for a lot of other companies because I don't think they care. The cranberry that we use is a very specific standardization, meaning it's not dried cranberry. It's very specifically standardized for the beneficial ingredients. And we don't just take the word of our supplier for that. We make sure we assay and test the materials after they get here. That goes for all the materials. So for us, it just goes without saying that we do this because we want to ensure that the product is going to work. And if the product's going to work, it has to deliver the ingredients that the science talks about and do it at an appropriate level. And that hard work that we do, that we just take for granted that we do, is the reason why I think this product is maybe even more than 4.5 stars. I think it's an incredibly highly rated product. Again, we've continued to concentrate our cranberry extract over the years. So I don't know what the reviews are on the screen. Oh, it's 4.8 stars.
Wow.
Which 4.8 stars means it's basically, I bet, 98% positive reviews.
Right.
I'm astounded, maybe the bad reviews that the product didn't get there on time or something like that, because I couldn't imagine making a better cranberry product than this. And our urinary tract, bladder, kidneys, these are something just like our digestive system. We live with them every day of our life, and most days are fine, but every once in a while, they don't quite perform as we would like them to perform. And what's fascinating about cranberry was always something, when I first started in this industry, that was recommended to be supplemented for the health of our urinary tract, bladder, kidneys. And they knew and had observed that it worked, but they hadn't really identified how and why. What I always say is, in science, when you observe something, that's step one. You know you have something good on your hands if you observe it. But you really haven't completed the equation. You really haven't completed what I consider the scientific proof until you've identified the specific mechanism by which cranberry or any ingredient works. And that's actually what they've done with cranberry. So what's nice about this, well, you have the benefit of the reviews, but you could actually go to the National Institute of Health website. You can go to any scientific website and you type in cranberry, and you're just going to see a whole line where they do the autofill on any kind of a search now on the internet.
Yeah.
You'll just see a whole line of results that are all tied to bladder, kidneys, urinary tract, urinary function, that I would imagine at the National Institute of Health website, there's probably thousands of published studies that pertain to cranberry and the health of the urinary tract.
And I would encourage you, while Andrew's sharing a lot of this powerful information, grab your laptop or your tablet and go to the Andrew Lessman store on hsn.com and read some of the reviews for yourself. I mean, there are cumulatively tens of thousands of reviews, but when you start to realize and understand the benefits that people are feeling and experiencing because, for example, they're taking the cranberry product, you will be astonished. Even the color of it, Andrew, it's a beautiful color.
And as you can see, it's really the cranberry fruit, not just the skin. It's the fruit acids, which are part of the standardization. But if you look there, once it's outside of the capsule, you really see the pretty pink color. And another thing, a lot of cranberry products you'll see on the market are these large tablets.
Yes.
Why would you want to imprison that wonderful, beautiful, standardized extract of cranberry in a tablet with binders and fillers and coatings that might restrict its availability or its absorption? This is exactly how you want to deliver it to your body, so it's going to benefit you. There's no taste because it's in that little capsule. Within a matter of moments, that capsule is gone, and that fine powder, and because that fine powder is so fine, it's virtually instantly soluble. And that's another thing. If something doesn't dissolve, if it doesn't go into solution, it's not going to be able to be absorbed, and it's not going to be able to benefit you. Remember, the digestive system is a separate system from the urinary tract. So what basically has to happen, you have to be able to absorb the beneficial compounds in cranberry. They get into your bloodstream, and as your body slowly and gradually clears them, how does it do that? It clears them using the kidneys, and then they end up in the bladder and they go through the urinary tract. So this product will benefit you if it gets delivered appropriately, as we do, so it's absorbed from the digestive system and then is delivered to the urinary tract. That's how it works.
Let's go over this. Okay. We're going to go to calcium, magnesium. And Andrew, just to pick you up on that, so yes. Why, though, when you talk about the fillers and the binders and everything else, why do these companies still use it, knowing that it's not as good as doing it in this manner?
It's very funny, and I encounter this in every industry. And I love, you know, I'm a student of everything. I'm even a student of business, and I love reading things in almost any business. And we've actually been looking at making some household products. The reason I've looked at making household products is even the ecologically friendly ones, they're not as ecologically friendly as you think. And part of the reason why is everyone does things the way it's always been done. For me, and maybe it's just my nature, I don't want to do things the way it's always been done. I want to do things better. I mean, that's my goal, is objectively to look at what I need to create and make it as best as possible. And unfortunately, when it comes to cranberry or even calcium or things like that, we generally see products that are not all that different than products that existed, and I'm not that young anymore, when I was a little child. I mean, you look at the daily multivitamins, the once daily multivitamins, we'll talk about my Essential One in a little while, but they haven't changed much in half a century. I mean, it's just absolutely remarkable, incredible. Even calcium products haven't changed much. Mine has. Whether it's the forms of calcium we use, the granulation that we use, the fact that we add vitamin D to the product as well. You should still take your separate vitamin D, but we make sure that you get a little bit of vitamin D with your calcium, just because it's critically important to absorption. And also, when I talk about calcium, in a moment you'll see me talk about vitamin K2 MK7, because if you supplement calcium, you should be supplementing vitamin K2 MK7. Calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin K2 MK7. It's all part of how your body manages calcium. It needs to be absorbed. It's critical for our bones, but we don't want too high levels of it in other systems. So vitamin K2 MK7 is the police officer in our body that ensures that calcium goes and stays where it's supposed to, and doesn't go where and stay where it's not supposed to. So I guess for me, the way things have always been done, again, going back to science, unless someone could show me scientific proof, because that is the way it must be done, I'm going to find a way that's consistent with benefits, consistent with the science, and consistent with wellness and health. That is my sole goal. I don't listen to what anybody else tells me unless they could tell me why. As I said with science, it's one thing to observe something. Right. It's a whole nother thing to now understand why that's the way we should do it, how and why.
And that's one of the big things that we're going to be able to tackle tonight, is to show you, the reason why this is going to be a great product to enhance your lifestyle. I know there's only about 60 seconds left, but Andrew, for a lot of us out there that are struggling with aches and pains, there is a real helpful solution out there, and it comes in this form.
Well, usually aches and pains, I was just explaining this to my mom, aches and pains are generally not related to your bones per se. More often than not, aches and pains are related to our joints.
Right.
And we'll talk about a little later when we talk about glucosamine and chondroitin, or we talk about marine collagen peptides. In terms of our bones, one of the most pernicious things about osteopenia and osteoporosis, the most pernicious thing of all, is that unless you get a bone scan, you don't know. If we did actually feel it and know it and can see it, it would be much easier for your doctor to work with you to treat it. So in terms of calcium, I'm someone who tends to be on the more conservative side of supplementing calcium. You should never take more than 500 milligrams at one time, because more than that won't be well absorbed. And you should follow your doctor's instructions, but I'm not one of those folks who say you should need to take 1,500 or 2,000 milligrams a day. I'd rather see people more in the range of 500 milligrams up to maybe 1,000. Make sure they're getting adequate vitamin D, but most importantly, make sure with that they have their vitamin K2 MK7, which hopefully we have the vitamin K2 MK7 maybe on the bottom of the screen while we're talking about the CalMag. So, and again, our calcium, the biggest problem with calcium products out there is how unpleasant they are to take, that they're difficult to swallow, they're enormous tablets, they're usually in the least soluble form, so they're not going to be well absorbed and well tolerated. Ours, we make sure, are super soluble, an ultrafine granulation in an ultra-soluble capsule with a little bit of vitamin D, as I said before. And then, of course, vitamin K2 MK7 is a very, very important investment in our good health in terms of how our body metabolizes and uses calcium. Because when I started initially, I talked about how everything has its proper level. Too high, not good. Too low, not good. But proper level is what we need. We can't get away without having it somewhere in that normal, healthy range. Same goes for calcium. We need to make sure that we have the proper amount of calcium. We need to make sure it goes where it's supposed to go, because without it, we have issues with our bones and skeleton. And we need to make sure that it's not going where it shouldn't go, because we don't want calcium contributing to, say, calcification of our arteries or blood vessels in our body.
So the vitamin K2 also is available, as Andrew said. In fact, I think our producer Steve just shared with me, they're going to put the pricing on the screen.
Right.
Folks, even though I'm not referencing the pricing tonight, please buy with confidence. These are some of the best values.
Well, we haven't really emphasized that, but almost everything is at very special event pricing. So I think you're saving on the large size of the calcium about $40.
Yeah.
So it's great savings. I think they all go away either tonight or tomorrow night. They might go away tonight at midnight. But vitamin K2 MK7, a little tiny capsule. It's a product that really hasn't, until I started talking about it a number of years ago, I really didn't see anyone talking about it. And our product has gone through evolutions, and we're going to continue to evolve this product, because the only thing that has happened with vitamin K2 MK7 is the science continues to validate that when you talk about the health of our bones and the health of our body, yes, obviously calcium and magnesium are critical to bone health, critical structural materials, elements for bone health. But you can't absorb that calcium without vitamin D, but you can't direct that calcium to where it needs to be and where it shouldn't be without the vitamin K2 MK7. So it really is a trio of important ingredients.
Let's head over this way to a really important vitamin supplement. Folks, this is where I started with Andrew way back when with Andrew's Essential One, and I greatly enjoyed the last time Andrew was in St. Petersburg. Andrew, you had a real comparison chart showcasing, because there's a lot of us out there that take a multivitamin. And if I ever see anybody out there taking one, I always ask them, well, what are you taking? Have you thought about Andrew Lessman's Essential One? For somebody that wants a multivitamin, when we say the words, the best in the world, we mean it on every level.
Yes, and what's so great about Essential One is how easy it is to show how objective, meaning that no matter what whether you're prejudiced, whether you're biased, just objectively, we're going to talk about facts. We don't need any alternate facts or alternative facts, whatever they call them. So if you just look at the facts here, it's a small, easy to swallow capsule versus these enormous horse pills that are difficult to swallow.
What they are.
The ultrafine powder that dissolves instantly, making it available for absorption and helping you, versus a large tablet that might not disintegrate, might not be beneficial, and will most certainly upset your stomach. So just objectively, just even without even trying the product, just looking at one versus the other, that capsule is preferential. In fact, there's a lot of medications on the market now that, even though they're still in tablets, what they do is they coat them with gelatin,
right,
and they call them like a tabsule or whatever it is, a caplet. They make them look like capsules because they know that consumers, like us, we prefer capsules. I'm someone who, I don't make any products in tablets because I can't tolerate swallowing tablets. If I had a handful of capsules and one tablet in with them and I took it,
right,
the one tablet, whatever, 10 seconds later will still be in my mouth. The capsules will go away. They'll just slide right down. So tablets are just, I bet I know your next question, they're cheaper to make.
Okay.
They're cheaper to make, they're easier to make. You throw in a bunch of additives, you mix it up, you put it in the tablet, you die. Plus, you take materials, in many cases, that are living materials like friendly flora or things like that, and you compress them under tens of thousands of pounds per square inch of pressure with these additives to make them stick together, because you have to add glue to the tablet because it's not sticking together on its own. Then you typically coat it. Then you sometimes coat it with sugar, which most of the leading multivitamins, if you read their label,
right,
they have sweeteners and sugars in them. Why? Because they want you to like the taste of that tablet in your mouth. They have artificial colors in it. Why? Because they think you won't like the vitamin as much as if it isn't a pretty yellow or orange or pink or green. They think you want it to be, I mean, mine are pretty boring. You know,
boring is good in tablets. I like it.
Theirs are, you know, have pretty colors. You know, mine does not. And I'll open this capsule, which is it's a soft capsule, easy to swallow, and it's just an ultrafine powder. It contains a lot of material. And the other thing is, with my Essential One, and again, it's the idea of being additive-free, free of additives, that even though that capsule isn't a big capsule, because we don't have a lot of other stuff in there, you get more of what you want. You look at all the key nutrients, whether it's the B complex or B12 or biotin. You look at my product, and you're getting multiples more. Most of the leading brands don't have lutein, zeaxanthin, or lycopene. None of them have zeaxanthin. Most of them have either none or trace amounts of lutein or lycopene. We give you real levels of all these ingredients. So it's one of those products that if you want to see the difference between how I go about making a product and how the other guys do, it's the best exercise in the world And maybe what I should do almost, we might be going to shoot some videos that we'll leave on the website. Maybe I'll take a bottle of one of those leading brands and just discuss the difference between my Essential One and theirs. And I would say I almost feel guilty comparing our product to theirs because my product has nothing to do with what theirs is.
Right.
We might both contain some vitamins and minerals, but our B12 is in a form. B12 is typically not absorbable when you introduce it through your mouth. We created a new form of B12 to make it absorbable. First of all, ours is the natural coenzyme form that your body uses, theirs is not. And ours is protected from stomach acids, so it bypasses your stomach, so it can be absorbed in the small intestine and benefit you. And almost every ingredient in my multivitamin has that kind of a differentiating story because we want the product to work for you at the right level, in the right form, and of course, in a dosage form that's going to work.
So if I can be so bold to really ask anybody out there that's maybe just channel surfing, just finding us for the first time, maybe you've never seen Andrew Lessman before, if you are currently taking a multivitamin, I would ask you to just stop for a second. Maybe it's Centrum, maybe you've taken it for years, and consider taking Andrew's multivitamin. When you do a side-by-side comparison, there is no comparison. Even if out of this entire 2-hour show, the only thing you do is say, all right, I'm gonna do the multivitamin. I know it's good for me, I know it's a good decision to make. You will not be disappointed. For anyone out there that's ever said, I can't possibly take a supplement because it's heavy on my stomach, Andrew's explained that. The rock hard tablets versus these ones.
Plus, what we do is, I look at the most common question I have to answer in my reviews. I should probably put a disclaimer on the website. We don't pull out the bad reviews. This is a product that, a multivitamin of all things, is 95% positive reviews, almost 85% 5-star reviews. For a super, a high potency multivitamin in a single capsule, that's remarkable, and I think most people find it a little bit incredible or not believable, but it is. It's just, as I said before, I don't do it the way everybody else has been doing it. If you look at 99% of the multivitamins purchased and consumed in America, they're tablets.
Yep.
They come with artificial colors and all sorts of other binders and fillers. They have relatively low levels of key nutrients, and they all contain the same forms of those nutrients. Everybody basically does kind of a carbon copy of everybody else. Maybe it's a little bit different color tablet, maybe it's a different shape tablet, but they're all basically the same. And then even more, if you don't buy Centrum or One a Day, whether you go to Walmart or Costco or wherever it might be, they have their version of those multivitamins made by a contract manufacturer who has the exact same formula using different colors, whatever it might be.
Right.
That's the exact same formula where they'll even tell you to compare it to One a Day Women or compare it to Centrum for men over 50. That they're basically all doing the same thing, which is just, and they're just happy to capture some sales because they're on 100,000 store shelves in America. And I'm just a little tiny brand that's on a shopping channel on a website here. So again, as I said, I don't have a small advertising budget. I have no advertising budget. So it's sort of funny, but.
Well, you are the walking advertisement. Yeah. Every single person that's a part of Andrew's family, as it were. Our
product is our advertising budget. And that's what's stood us well over 38 years.
Gosh.
Long before I was ever on a TV shopping channel, whatever that was, 26, 27 years ago, we were growing, and again, simply growing by word of mouth.
Right.
And I guess because I didn't have shareholders and a board of directors that wanted profits and this and that, I was able to continue growing patiently as the company grew. And I had another job initially because I wasn't going to push the growth of the company or take in investors or things like that or compromise the quality of the products. So I've been steadfast in that regard, and even to this day, here we are 38 years later, the reason why there's solar panels in the parking lot and solar panels in the roof, the reason why we give away 2 bottles of prenatal vitamins for every bottle of vitamins that you get, we can do that because I don't have shareholders and I don't have a board of directors, and I get to do these things and I get to make my products correctly. The reason why we don't use additives or lubricants or flowing agents, even though that costs more, is because I don't have anyone looking over my shoulder saying, well, if you did it this way, we'd make more profit. I just do it the right way, and that's how we'll always make our products.
And it really is, there's no compromise. I mean, folks, for everybody watching, listening to Andrew, it's fascinating to me because I have never, ever met anybody who is so laser focused on the pursuit of perfection. There is nothing that Andrew does that is absolutely not 100% revolving around you. It really is all down to what the customer experiences.
And this product, glucosamine chondroitin, is a perfect example. If you look at the front of the label, it says, like any product like this, it says glucosamine and chondroitin. Ours, we make sure it says 1,500 and 1,200. In fact, with glucosamine, it actually is 2,000, because with glucosamine, the important weight is the weight of glucosamine. You don't include the weight of the sulfate fraction that comes along with it. So glucosamine sulfate in my product is 2,000, the actual glucosamine component 1,500, and then the chondroitin sulfate is 1,200. So, and what's interesting, if I wanted to, I could probably reduce the cost of this product by at least a third if all I did was change that to glucosamine HCl, which if I had a board of directors or shareholders or something, they'd say, well, do that, glucosamine HCl, wow, that's more profitable. And now you understand why most of the glucosamine products on the market use glucosamine HCl.
Right.
It's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. But if you look at the science and research, which is the only reason I make a glucosamine product, and even though the other companies might not recognize it, the only reason why they do as well, you have to follow the science and use glucosamine sulfate. Also, because so many Americans, we're struggling with our weight, we're struggling with managing our blood sugar, we're struggling with managing our blood pressure, that most glucosamine products and chondroitin products use a sodium salt. And that sodium salt means that you get another, say, 50, 100, couple hundred milligrams of sodium on a daily basis. We make sure that we do not. We use potassium and we use a calcium salt. So you make sure, or you're assured, that you're getting a product that delivers just the benefits of glucosamine and chondroitin in their proper forms. And when I go through this product, often what I do is I read all the scientific quotes that say that glucosamine hydrochloride is an unproven ingredient. The research, the science on the benefits of glucosamine for joint health, for the elastic tissues in our body, it's the research on glucosamine sulfate. And sadly, what's happened, and I've received over the years emails and letters about this, is I'll say, why don't you read the label at home? And I'd say the substantial majority of people who would read a label of product they have at home are going to find out that it doesn't contain glucosamine sulfate. At one time, they didn't even disclose, but it will contain glucosamine HCl, glucosamine hydrochloride, and the sulfate moiety, that sulfate component of glucosamine sulfate, is absolutely critical to your enjoyment of the benefits of this product. And we make it just following the science, nothing else.
Andrew, we're going to go back over this way to talk about an ingredient that I've always really wanted to talk to you about. Turmeric is, I've heard so much about it, yet I still feel like I don't know enough about it. Why would I buy or why would I take a turmeric supplement?
Yeah, again, this gives you an idea. Everyone's excited about turmeric.
Right.
My first product that contained turmeric was probably a little over 20 years ago.
Wow.
But there's been tremendous advances in the way of turmeric, because what we all did back then was, certainly if I was making the best turmeric product, which at the time I was, we had the highest standardization of curcuminoids, the beneficial compounds in turmeric. And now they're looking at the essential oils that are found in turmeric. It has become an ingredient that has just been a hotbed of great clinical science and scientific research. But the key to turmeric is turmeric needs to be delivered in a form that can be absorbed. Turmeric, talking before about solubility, that certain things resist going into full solution and therefore resist being absorbed into the body and delivering their benefits. The reason why turmeric had exhibited benefits in the Asian diet, particularly in the Indian diet, is because turmeric is used as a spice, and it's cooked into stews and things like that. And when you do that, guess what? It complexes with fats. And when it complexes with fats, it becomes more absorbable. There's a number of different turmeric materials on the market today that are basically being offered because they have now overcome the insolubility, the poor, what they call bioavailability of turmeric. I use the form that I believe is the most akin to how our body works and how turmeric has always worked through the ages, which is simply complexing it with fat. And the fat we chose to complex it with, because turmeric has these benefits in the brain and benefits in the liver and soothing benefits throughout our body. And that's why we follow glucosamine and chondroitin talking about turmeric. We complex it with phosphatidylserine, which is one of the predominant phospholipids in our brain and predominant phospholipid in our liver. So it's something that is the most natural way to go about delivering this critical natural ingredient. But the reality is that turmeric is beneficial, but you also, again, have to, as I said before, you have to look at the science.
Yes.
And the science talks about challenges with bioavailability. So if you're going to make an effective supplement, you need to deliver it in a fashion that overcomes those bioavailability issues. And all we did was take a page out of the history book, and that's how they've been doing it for hundreds of years in India by combining it with lipids, combining it with fat.
So Andrew, just to kind of pick you up on supplements as a whole, the history of supplements, or who started this, or where this came from, is there an easy answer to that?
I think we've always been aware. I talked about this yesterday when we walked by the room where we make teas. And people had said to me, that's really weird that you make tea, you make vitamins. I said, not at all. Because most of the plant-based material that we deliver, unlike most companies that just dry up a plant and throw it in a pill, when we do any botanical material, it is specifically standardized for some active component, whether we're talking about cinnamon for healthy blood sugar balance, or whether we're talking about, say, curcumin, the curcuminoids in turmeric. You're specifically targeting a compound that has a beneficial effect. What is tea? Tea, if it's done right, is a water-based extract of some healthy leaf that you're extracting its beneficial compounds. When you make green tea, you're extracting it for EGCG. It tastes good too, right, but you're extracting it for EGCG and other polyphenols. When you make mint tea, it's soothing benefits. You want to make sure that you have a tea that has standardized levels of those beneficial compounds. So for me, teas are just another botanical material. So I think for as long as we've been making tea, for as long as the original physicians back in Greek times, Egyptian times, Roman times, they were not making drugs then. What they were doing is they recognized that plants held incredible power. Some of them realized that if they extracted something in alcohol, or they extracted it in water and concentrated it over time, they would have beneficial effects. So many of the things, like we're talking about right now, turmeric, it was recognized by Ayurvedic physicians hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. We only now have discovered, not just observed those same benefits, but we've discovered, as I say, the other part of the equation, the how and why. And we also understand how to deliver it effectively. So this has been, as long as we've been, quote, civilized and not wandering the plains somewhere, but actually settled down and looking at the plants and things around us. Even if you look at Native Americans, so many of the ingredients we offer were used by Native Americans here hundreds and hundreds of years ago, long before we set foot in North America. And we are now simply taking, when we talked initially about nighttime and valerian and ingredients like that, it's chamomile. It's well established. So that's actually a great question. But it's funny, I guess so many other supplement manufacturers would rather have their company positioned like a drug company.
Yes.
That they're making these alternatives to drugs or things.
Right.
No. What I am trying to do is look at the health that can be provided by eating a healthy diet. What are those healthy things we can eat? If we're not eating them adequately, how do we go about targeting those ingredients and delivering them in a supplement?
Let's go back over this way to another item which I remember when you first presented this, Andrew, because I'd never really seen this before, but this is a beauty secret for so many, but also going back to suppleness of joints. Is that correct?
And I want to, we're going to be doing today's special on this at I think the end of July.
Okay.
Toward the end of July. So just so everyone knows, but even a large size, if you take 2 scoops a day, it will last, because July is still a few months away. So, but marine collagen peptides, in terms of, and again, if you understand the how and why, it's very simple to understand why we talk about benefits to our joints and benefits to our skin. If we simply look at our body and what our body is made of, the principal protein in our body, much to a lot of folks' surprise, they might think it's the protein in our muscles or something else, it's collagen protein. And as we get older, our ability to continue to repair and manufacture healthy collagen is at the core of our maintaining, in terms of our joints, the flexibility and elasticity of our joints, in terms of our skin, the flexibility and elasticity of our skin. And that's something I've heard over and over and over about this product, is the benefits, even to those like me who consume it. I consume it for my joints because I'm all about being able to run, hike, mountain bike. I'm all about being active. That's my key to stress relief, and that's my key to staying youthful. So a product like this has been, this is in recent years, because this we've only had for a few years, this is a product that has become really my favorite product in terms of just observable difference that you can notice and feel. And what's also great about this, it's one of those products that you've redesigned, that we introduced this product, and a lot of people said, great product, we love the benefits, but hate the taste. And so it was lingering around a 2.2, 2.3 star product. And we've improved it so much so, and it's no small feat to go from 2.2 stars to whatever it is now, 4.1 or 4.2 stars. It took a lot of 5-star reviews for us to climb back up. And it's something that I could mix it with water here, and you'll see in it, and what we've done, and we continue to constantly improve the solubility, but now it has no taste. So it has absolutely zero taste, and all you do is, it's an ultra-fine powder. It's best you put it in a smoothie, or you can put it in oatmeal or something, but here just 2 scoops, or if you can put 3 scoops in there. I'll mix it up quickly. Oops, as I just get powder all over me. Don't do that at home. But you'll see what's great about it, and what's really remarkable about this. Collagen peptides. Collagen is resistant protein. Collagen is effectively like fiber.
Right.
It's typically not digestible at all. And the leaders in terms of the technology on collagen peptides are the Japanese. And just as I say, we always follow the research. We make sure we get our collagen peptides from the leaders in terms of the research in Japan. So this is marine collagen peptides, and if we look at that there, that glass looks really cloudy. If we look at it again, probably in about a minute or two, it's less and less cloudy, and that was I put several scoops. Normally we'd put 1 scoop. I put several scoops in there, and normally you put it in a blender with other things, but for me, this is how I drink it at home. But you could already see at the bottom it's getting clear. And after all, and what I also do, there's been a lot of questions about what I give Lincoln, because Lincoln is 9 years old, and Lincoln is as crazy active as I am. Lincoln's birthday is May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, so he's going to be 9 years old.
Gosh.
And so I make sure what I do is I'll put like 5 scoops of this in a glass of water, let it fully dissolve, and then I gradually add that over a couple of days. I put it in the fridge, and then I gradually add it over a couple of days to his water. So he's getting a small amount of marine collagen peptides, and as we could look at the glass there, we could say it's clearing. But it's an ingredient that important for me, important for him. Muriel loves it because she feels it gives her skin greater resiliency. There's research and clinical studies that talk about reducing wrinkles, the signs of wrinkles around our eyes and things like that. But again, in terms of the quality of the collagen peptide, there's bovine collagen, there's from cows, there's porcine from pigs. The marine collagen peptide is where the best science is, and it absolutely has zero taste.
I think I mean, you heard what Andrew said right at the beginning, one of his favorite products, which is huge praise for what this is. Now, as I've always said, I want to be like Andrew when I grow up, so that's why I need to start integrating this into my daily regimen as well. But as you said, it hasn't got a taste,
no,
so it's easy to drink.
I just drank the whole glass, and the only thing that's left, and the foam would normally go away too. At the very surface, because it's such a fine powder, it leaves a little foam at the surface, and that's all you see on the glass, because I drank the entire contents there.
There we go.
And that was, I think I put 3 or 4 scoops.
You did.
So it's, and it dissolved in water, and I just drank it down. So it's a fun product. Most of us, if you read the reviews, are astounded by the benefits. If you use it consistently, the degree to which collagen protein, collagen peptides in our body are predominant, it just underscores the potential benefits of this product.
Let's go talk about energy, because Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but there seems to be maybe an alarming trend where energy is the new buzzword. Everybody wants more energy. We need more energy, and we need it now. but we reach typically for all the wrong places.
Yeah.
Those high sugary drinks, it's not good, is it?
Yeah, calories, most of us aren't short on calories when it comes to producing energy. We have plenty of, say, whether it's body fat on our body or there's plenty of glycogen stored throughout our body and our liver in order to fuel whatever we need. There's usually other issues at hand that affect our ability to have the energy we want. Or we reach for unhealthy levels of stimulants and things. We have another product that we'll touch on later that is just our energy and fat metabolism factors.
Yes.
Really geared for folks who really want to support fat metabolism. And of course, fat is a repository of energy. And that has low levels of the caffeine-related alkaloids in green tea, which for me work. I struggle with coffee. Coffee is something that the caffeine in coffee is a little too potent for me. The only time I could ever do that is before I exercise. If I'm going to do it before I make a phone call or go to a meal or something, my mouth and my brain become disconnected.
Right.
And plus, I just don't feel really comfortable. But green tea seems to work for me. In terms of CoQ10, this is the most common sense, scientifically straightforward approach to energy production that anyone could ever engage, because we are responsible for the energy production in each and every one of our cells. In our society, we have a power plant that generally fuels each of our homes and things. In fact, here, we produce all the energy here. That's a unique thing. So this entire building is fueled by the sun outside.
Wow.
But, which I don't think there's any other company that can say that about their headquarters, and we've been doing that for 20 years. But when it comes to our body, all of the trillions and trillions and trillions of cells, it's hard to imagine, but every single one of those cells must produce their own energy. There's no other cell that could help them out and give them a hand and produce more energy. And the key to producing all that energy, the actual mechanism by which it is done, is by the movement of electrons. That movement, that electron potential, that movement of electrons is responsible for the energy that we're all experiencing as you're watching this, as I'm standing here, as Adam's standing here. That energy that defines what we call life, our existence, is the movement of electrons. And CoQ10 is the central molecule. As we get older, we have less of it available. If we take certain drugs like statin drugs or drugs for osteoporosis, we have less of it available. But that CoQ10 is responsible for the movement of those electrons. So it's something, and it's also why, because CoQ10 alone is not the center of the universe in terms of energy production, but we also require say riboflavin. What is it? FAD, flavoid adenosine dinucleotide.
Wow.
That's another molecule that's involved. That's the coenzyme form of riboflavin. That's another molecule that's involved in the cellular process, whatever we call it, the tricarboxylic acid cycle, the Krebs cycle in our cells that produces energy. So again, if we simply look at how our body works, we would realize that CoQ10 is not the be-all and end-all of all energy production. It is the most central and most important, but it needs help. So when you look at all these CoQ10 products on the market, a lot of them are unnecessarily put into soft gel capsules. The important thing is when you take CoQ10, just eat it with a little bit of fat. If I'm taking it on its own at home, you can even take it on an empty stomach. I'll just take it with a few almonds or a few cashews or something like that. Have something that has a little fat, or say Muriel always has these little teaspoons. She loves the nut butters, the organic nut butters that are pure nut butters like pecans or walnuts are incredibly healthy nuts.
Good for you.
Nuts are wonderfully healthy. So you just need a tiny bit of fat to absorb it optimally. But when you're looking at CoQ10, it needs help, and you can't just deliver it on its own and expect it to work well, which is why if you look at our product, the reviews on this product are virtually perfect. There couldn't be a better designed, better put together CoQ10 product than we deliver here.
We'd love to send this out to you. I know for many of us, CoQ10 is a product that we already take or certainly have taken in the past. Try Andrew's CoQ10. I think you'll be very, very, very happy with it. Remember, all of our pricing expires at the end of the visit, so certainly take advantage. Andrew, just going back to food for a second, because what I really appreciate from you is always this very balanced argument that you present in terms of the decisions that you make.
Right.
When it comes to diet, how do we feel about excessive amounts of dairy and also in terms of meat versus fish? Because a lot of us seem to sway very, very heavily towards lots of dairy and lots of red meat.
Well, we all have to choose our own way we eat. I'm not one of those people who kind of proselytize folks about you have to eat this way, you have to do this, you have to be a vegan or something like that. Everybody needs to. God, there's
Can you hear that?
Something moving overhead, or is that an aircraft outside? It could have been, because sometimes they have, or I was going to say, sometimes they have the Air Force Base nearby here, and sometimes they have.
I've never heard anything outside the studio
so
before.
It could be. But so that, I don't know if you heard it at home. But in terms of diet, I'm someone who I really don't eat red meat anymore. My whole life I was a big red meat eater, but I really don't eat red meat anymore. I love fish, I love chicken, I love turkey. I love to eat things mostly organic. And it's one of those things, when I try to explain why I eat organic, it's less about what's going into my body than what it means in terms of, for a milligram of pesticides to be on a food that you eat, yes, it probably means that 1,000 milligrams or 100 milligrams of pesticides, or put that in pounds or put that in tons, were put out into the environment. So we're essentially drowning or swimming in these toxic chemicals. So it's not so much what's on our food that we're eating as much as what was in the environment to leave that in our food. It's sort of the whole discussion of GMO.
Right.
I avoid GMO foods. Why? Not because a genetic modification is bad, but the typical genetic modification makes plants pretty much immune to herbicides. So what ends up happening, those crops are swimming in toxic chemicals, in herbicides. What is it, Roundup or
Sure.
glyphosate? So so there are a lot of things we could do in terms of our diet. If dairy works for you, dairy is fine, but you have to be aware of the cholesterol, saturated fat, if you might have cardiovascular risk. If red meat works for you, fine. We all have to make our own decisions. Hopefully those decisions are in our best interests. I'm someone who I love eating as vegetarian-based as I can, and then I simply make sure that I get good quality protein from clean sources, mostly fish or chicken or turkey. So it's all up to us. And again, I think a lot of people get turned off when someone tells you have to eat a certain way.
Yes.
You don't have, the best thing to do is just reduce the synthetic concentrated sources of sugar. Don't worry about the sugar that's in healthy fruits or vegetables. Right. But if you're going to have processed packaged foods, that's when you start having problems. So we really need to, we should eat things that look like they did in nature and eat less, quote, manufactured food, high concentrated sources of sugar or the like. So I'm someone who, to the degree we could eat healthy, wholesome foods, we're going to be healthier. To the degree we could do it organically, so much the better. So that's kind of what I tend, and as I said before, if someone has a choice of getting the best supplements in the world and eating so-so, or never taking a supplement but eating a perfect diet, never take a supplement, eat a perfect diet. That, again, as much as I make vitamin supplements, I know that the most important decisions we make every day pertain to what we eat. And the reason why my products become important is because most of us aren't making great decisions in terms of what we eat. And as we said before, because my products are nothing more than just dietary supplements. So again, we have to put all of these things in their proper context. And I think so many companies or businesses, they have their agenda, so you don't really get an objective statement. It wouldn't be like most folks who make vitamins to be saying what I'm saying about the relative unimportance of vitamins compared to having a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle.
Well, it's just the honesty, and that's really part and parcel of the integrity of the Andrew Lessman brand. That's why we love doing this. It's just an open and honest discussion about health and the decisions that we make. I don't want to leave here without addressing PQQ20. I've never seen this one before.
PQQ, I'm making that because so many folks have requested it. We started making it, I guess, about a year or so ago. When we talk about CoQ10, we often talk in terms of protecting our mitochondrion and mitochondrion health, protecting the telomeres in the genetic material in our mitochondrion, and the newest and latest and best research on protecting our mitochondrion pertains to PQQ. I'd recommend doing some research on the internet on PQQ. One of these days we'll take some significant time, maybe when I do an online event. And we'll talk about PQQ in greater detail. But it's an extremely expensive product. Many of you have asked me to do a special version of CoQ10 with PQQ, and it will make it a bit more affordable, but it's still, because it's just one of those materials like zeaxanthin that is just outrageously expensive. We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars a kilogram. Tens of thousands of dollars.
So we're going to head over this way to an item which, when we talk about glowing reviews and a desert island product that people do not want to be without, it's the circulation and vein support. Has it always been a popular choice, Andrew?
Well, it's a product that when it's like so many, most companies make products for which there's a demand because they're just involved in doing business, selling product. When I originally did this product about 20 years ago, there was zero demand, unless you're in Europe. Because in Europe, in France, actually in France it has to be actually prescribed, recommended by a physician for the healthy circulation in your legs, or actually they also recommend it for the healthy circulation somewhere else. Something, yeah.
I see where you're going with that.
Yeah. So, well, it just seems so indiscreet to talk about on air, but when we suffer from hemorrhoids, hemorrhoids are challenged circulation in another area. So it's somewhere where the ingredients in this product support healthy circulation, not just in our legs, but somewhere nearby. Right. So when we talk about this product, when I introduced it 20 years ago, absolutely zero demand. No one had heard about diosmin, and that was the key ingredient at the time. Since that time, we've enhanced the potency of the diosmin. We've increased it by 20%. We've also increased the potency, and we added other ingredients. So if you look at this chart behind me, we originally had 500 milligrams of diosmin. It's now 600. Then we added the hesperidin and rutin because that's what a lot of the clinical science was adding. And then we added butcher's broom extract, which I view as almost as effective as diosmin, pine bark extract and grapeseed extract, just because I wanted to deliver all the, again, and they're all standardized extracts. They're not just dried butcher's broom or dried grapeseed. They all are standardized extract with a specific disclosure of a specific component in that extract, in that plant. But so when I introduced this, it was one of those products, kind of like healthy hair, skin, and nails,
right,
that there was no demand for the product. And then people tried it, and people tried it. And when I talk about it on air, there wasn't a lot of demand. And then, thankfully, more and more people tried it. And then, as we have the visibility of reviews, nothing has done more to help these products than the reviews. Because I could talk till I'm blue in the face, as blue as my shirt. And I think when you watch people on TV, you have a healthy skepticism.
Yes.
Because they're representing their product. I try not to over-represent my products. I try to talk more about the general science than the product itself. What's wonderful about the reviews, it kind of democratizes all of that. It gives you an opportunity at your leisure to read about the product and see how other people experience that product. And with all of my products, if they don't continually get, say, 75, 85, 90, 95% positive reviews, they will not continue to exist. We will go back to the drawing board, as we did with marine collagen peptides, and we will make the product better. Even though this was a perfectly reviewed product pretty much, we still continue to make it better, because that's another problem I have, is even if a product is fantastic, I always want to find a way to make it better, and we've done that with this product.
I mean, Andrew never stands still, and that's what's remarkable, is that these formulas, right?
I think it was, who was it? I remember, I'm going to date myself again. When I was a little kid, I collected baseball cards and things like that, and there was a baseball player who played, his name's Satchel Paige. African-American, played in what was called at the time the Negro Leagues. And he was probably one of the greatest baseball players of all time. And I think he didn't get up to the major leagues until he was in his 50s pretty much. And even then he still excelled. He was certainly in his late 40s. And I remember him being interviewed when I was a kid and just being enamored with his story. And I always remember he had a quote that was something like, you just don't look back, which is a healthy way to look at things, because his career, he was deprived of being able to play in the major leagues. Right. But you don't look back. That can make you bitter and negative. But he was saying, I think you don't look back, or you just don't stop moving, because somebody might be gaining on you.
There you go.
So I think that affected me as a child. So I think now I'm constantly trying to move forward.
Never
progressing.
Stop. Never stop. I mean, that's really what goes on with Andrew's formulas. One of the most exciting things is every time we arrive in Henderson, Nevada, or when Andrew's in St. Petersburg, there's always something new, there's a new twist. But all of this is always founded in the science, because things are always changing.
Yeah, that's, well, my background as a kid, that was always my focus in all my studies, has always been science. And you can't make a nutritional supplement. You can't make it effectively without having an understanding, a comprehension, and an awareness of the science. And that's what everything we do. And there are so many products that were enormous products in the marketplace. Many of them were touted and promoted by Dr. Oz. Things like raspberry ketone or green coffee bean extract. And we fielded hundreds, if not thousands, of requests for that product here, and I refused to make it. Why? There was no science. There was a lot of hype, but there was no science. And now, of course, those products have gone away, and there's been tens of millions of dollars in judgments against the companies who are promoting those products. But the only products I will make are products for which there's going to be science and a clear understanding of what you could expect from the product.
As we head over this way, have you ever considered doing like a TV show?
Well, that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, but I mean, like a talk show. I mean, I know this is like a talk show, but
no, I've been requested many times, but over the years, and especially nowadays with all the different channels and things, I constantly am asked whether I would do that, but that's not what I do. I'm not a TV celebrity. My products are the star, and I make great products that get wonderfully reviewed, which is when anyone sees me out and about. They don't tell me how wonderful I am. They tell me how wonderful my products are. Real celebrities, they're told how much everybody loves them. They love my products, and I'm happy with that.
But you have delivered something, Andrew, that is virtually impossible to do. There is a trust. I trust you. I trust the words that you say. And as you said, when people watch TV, typically there's a healthy skepticism, but you've managed to combat that because it is truthful.
No, I think, well, first of all, I've been doing this on TV now for almost 27 years. I've been making products for 38 years, but I think the real reason is I'm inherently skeptical myself. So because I'm inherently skeptical, I think people deserve real facts and real information, so they're not going to be skeptical just as I would be if I was watching me. Plus, and I'm not sure if my parents are watching now, hopefully they're not, because I used to always criticize this about them, but they gave me a really healthy humility as a child. No matter how well I did on something, they were not impressed. So I grew up thinking that I always had to do my very best, and it was all a byproduct of not results, but how much I was committed to my work. That was what was important to them. How much I invested in terms of work, not how great my results were. So I think my parents gave me a very, very healthy dose of humility, that, as they have numerous things that they used to say, that everyone puts their pants on one leg at a time.
There you go.
You know, that everyone goes potty, and so no matter how famous they are, no matter how whatever they might be in their world, so we're all just human beings. So, and we all try to hopefully the best we can and deliver in some fashion value to other people.
One of the things that I do encourage you to do is to check out Andrew's blog. I know you put a lot of time and effort into your blog, and it gives you a chance to say things that you don't say here.
I wish I wish I was working less so I had more time to write more, because I love doing that. But I typically only write things for the blog in advance of the visits. But oftentimes I'll write things on other topics that I have my opinions about lots of different things. I try to stay not political, because I think that political world, all it does, I should have mentioned this when we were talking about valerian and stress and things, because all that political world does is make us crazy. Yeah. And no matter which side of the aisle you're on, as I always say, we all have our little sphere of influence, and I think to the extent we could focus on our health, our well-being, that of the people we love, focus on our job and all of that, keep ourselves in a little world, then where we have influence, where we act, we could see the impact of what we do. If we worry about what's going on and certainly it's worrisome, whether it's in North Korea or Afghanistan or Syria, Lord knows we could lie awake at night and never have a moment's peace. So we have to remember, I wrote this in one of my blog posts, it's that it's a prayer. I think that's something that AA, the folks at AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, often talk about. What is it that we change the things we can, we accept the things we can't, and most importantly, we know the difference. So the things we can change and act upon in our
Yes.
world, we do our best to change. But then we have to recognize the things that are out of our control, and we have to find a way to accept them and find peace with them.
No, it's a wonderful way to live. I mean, right there.
Right.
It's important. Folks, bear with us. I know we are racing through as much as we can.
Oh,
we
we
are.
didn't even talk about cinnamon.
I know, this is such an
which-
important one as well.
And cinnamon's important because, and when I talk about weight loss or weight gain or weight management, what I generally talk about is how we need to blame our ancestors. We inherited genes that were designed to survive really well in a world of scarcity. So we now live in a world of abundance where if I had a cell phone here, I could call and have any one of 100 different
Right.
restaurants deliver food here. Or we could go to any one of grocery stores. It's just, we live in a world of abundance where most of the foods are too rich in calories and not rich in nutrition. So the problem we have with overweight and obesity and the impact that has on our ability to manage our blood pressure, and in this case, manage our blood sugar, it's devastating to the health of our country. And for decades, I was asked about an ingredient that might be able to help with managing blood sugar metabolism and helping us with our insulin metabolism. And cinnamon was really the first. And that was about 4 or 5 years ago. So cinnamon extract is really the first. It's a wonderful ingredient. Show it to your doctor, because many of us, I think the #1 class of drugs that have actually exceeded the statin drugs for cholesterol are now the drugs that help us deal with type 2 diabetes, which is really an epidemic in our society. It affects our cardiovascular health. It affects our cerebrovascular health. It affects our eye health. It's just something that's devastating to the overall health of our country. So to the extent we can lose weight, to the extent we can improve our lifestyle, what we eat, and do the right things to give us back a bit of control over our blood sugar and our insulin metabolism, that's a positive thing. And cinnamon is an exceptional tool in that regard. It's one of our most, I think, perfectly reviewed products. And then we also have berberine. And berberine is cinnamon you could take as little as 1 capsule daily. 1 or 2 capsules daily is perfect. Berberine, to follow the clinical research and clinical science, which is impressive. Berberine, you're going to want to take 1 capsule with each meal. It's best to be taken with meals. We've designed it so it's a little bit more mild, but berberine itself, that plant, can be slightly irritating to the digestive system. Not for all people, but for some people. Always take it with food.
Andrew, when it comes, and I wanted to just ask you about that for just a second. I've read so many different things about when we're eating our meals, whether we should be consuming drinks at the same time. Some people say you should drink before or after, but not during a meal. Is that true?
You're not talking about alcoholic beverages.
No,
now.
just normal water.
Yeah, I think it's normal for us to hydrate when we eat. What some people are talking about is sometimes when we hydrate too much, we dilute the hydrochloric acid.
Right.
Many of us, as we get older, even though we suffer from GERD or gastric esophageal reflux disease, and we feel like our stomachs are more acidic, actually, our stomachs are more sensitive, and oftentimes we're not secreting enough acid. What I always say with things like that, in terms of choosing your diet, as long as you're not eating like synthetic foods, as long as you're eating healthy foods, listen to your body.
Right.
Develop a relationship with your body where you listen to how your digestive system functions. What I really say in terms of both weight loss and health, keep a food diary. It's really easy to do with smartphones now. Heck, you can take pictures of everything you eat before you eat it. So you have a record of what you've eaten and the quantities you've eaten. That's the most important thing we could do, is really have that kind of an awareness. A lot of us, we're so busy, we're so crazy, we just forget about what we're sort of brain dead. We're kind of robots when we're shoving food into our face, and we forget how important that is. That is, even depending on the doctors you might read or the experts you might read, most of them will say, at a minimum, that over half of the major health issues we suffer from in life, whether it's going to be cancer or heart disease, things like that, is diet and lifestyle related. Some will say over 80%. And I'm more on that 80% side. So we, again, have incredible power. What I wanted to show quickly on the berberine, because berberine is an ingredient that's closely related to curcumin. But berberine, like curcumin, originally it was an herb, but look how bright yellow color that is. And it was also used for coloring. And there's no real need for synthetic dyes and colors when you see how bright turmeric is. Turmeric is bright orange, that berberine is bright yellow. And even if you look at our Fruitful Antioxidants product, it's bright purple. There's all sorts of natural choices if you want to color a product that they don't have to use. Like all the multivitamins out there, most of them contain yellow number 5 and yellow number 6. Berberine is in tiny concentrations is an incredibly rich, bright yellow color.
You shocked me, Andrew, when you said this earlier. Do you think that people really care about the color of the vitamins? It just seems so inane. It seems crazy.
Well, I think if we don't think about it and we don't recognize that those are artificial colors, certainly I would think if I ever made a tablet and had colors, you'd think, oh, Andrew's using turmeric or berberine or berries to color it. We don't think that those large vitamin companies are supposedly making us a healthy product and they're putting these artificial colors in. I think it's clear that we like our food to be colorful, but usually it's candies and confections. I mean, M&Ms, I've always loved M&Ms as a kid, but M&Ms have pretty colors. And so I think if M&Ms are all, and we're working on doing our own kind of version of M&Ms with Cholesterol, so it survives the heat of summer. We might have it next year, so in the summer, our Cholesterol, our Choco Nuvo, which lowers cholesterol like Cholesterol, it won't have to go away in summer because we'd have, instead of a little square, maybe you take a half a dozen little M&Ms.
That's exciting.
But what's also, when you look at things like M&Ms, it's kind of surprising. Although they said, to their credit, they're going to be removing artificial colors in the next few years, which I love to hear. But there's all sorts of interesting ingredients that I've learned that we've already figured out how to make our M&M kind of product with just the chocolate center and then only some fiber around the chocolate and a little bit of sugar around the fiber. Usually there's a whole bunch of other additives thrown in, but we figured out how to do it like that. You need to have that fiber, otherwise the natural fats contained in the chocolate will leach through to the sugar and break up the shell and things. So it's something we're working on, but as we're always working on something.
Very exciting.
But again, I think we do, to a certain extent, care about color, but I think when it comes to an informed consumer and a product about which they've been educated, you don't care anymore about color. That I remember some folks who were at, what was it, Warner Lambert, I think was the company. They were making Benadryl, and it's a diphenhydramine. It's an antihistamine that's usually in a bright pink pill. And I had said to them a long time ago, why don't you make a color and dye-free version of it? Haven't you been requested? Because a lot of kids take that, and a lot of kids you don't want to be dosing them with those artificial colors and things like that, which they did, to their credit. But why that hasn't carried through to vitamins and things, I'm just not sure.
It's interesting seeing how things have changed, and I think we as a society are maybe more informed than we used to be, that we kind of expect a little more than we used to do as well, you know? Right. We want to spend a few moments here, which is on Andrew's always popular Ultimate Whey.
It's May. A lot of folks focus on weight loss now because summer is coming.
Indeed it is.
We have our secure meal replacements. We make secure meal replacement with soy protein, whey protein, and even marine collagen protein. But what I just wanted to show was our protein powder. A lot of folks start working out more and they're, say, reducing their caloric intake, but they still want to make sure they're getting quality protein. This is the highest quality protein you'll find anywhere. It also, I'll show you in a moment, mixes with water. But you won't find another protein product like this. It's, as you look at just this chart right here, it's 10 grams of whey protein isolate, which is just a small scoop. That's per serving. There's no fat. There's no trans fat. There's no saturated fat. There's no cholesterol. This, despite it being derived from whey protein, which is a dairy-derived source. No carbohydrate, no sugar. So even folks who are lactose intolerant, you should just try the product. You could return it if it doesn't work for you. But it's got such low levels of sugar that it's considered sugar-free. Low sodium, no added soy. Most whey protein products add soy for solubility, and a lot of people are using whey to avoid soy. No flavors added, no sweeteners added, no artificial ingredients. You add it to a smoothie, you add it to your oatmeal. It almost tastes like you added a little bit of milk, because the only hint of flavor it has is a slight dairy flavor. So in a smoothie, it's wonderful. Even a vegetable smoothie, we'll add it at home. A fruit smoothie, we'll add it at home, or even in your oatmeal. It mixes perfectly, as I'll show you. It even mixes mixes simply in a glass of water. It's good I'm getting my whey protein and my marine collagen peptides here. But where's a scoop? Is there a scoop here?
Why is sodium not good? There's always a big thing around sodium.
And there's a lot of discussion in terms of sodium because not everyone is necessarily sodium sensitive. But sodium is something that in many individuals, increased intake of sodium is associated with a significantly increased rate of hypertension, meaning high blood pressure. But again, it's not a perfect relationship, not a perfect correlation, but in large populations, reducing sodium intake, and there were just some interesting studies on it recently, and they go both ways. But sodium is something that we love the taste of sodium, but we want to make sure that we're like anything. We're consuming, we want it in that healthy level. So we don't want to be consuming too much sodium because sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, these are the electrolytes that should exist in our body in a healthy balance. And again, sodium is something that we should watch our intake of sodium, and when we're like with glucosamine or chondroitin, we don't want sodium, we don't need to be getting extra sodium for our supplements. Let's get the sodium with the foods that we might want it to be more palatable. And again, of course, being moderate. But as you saw, this is a whey protein isolate. I kind of took it for granted. I stirred it for about 5 seconds, and it mixes completely. And the only thing it will taste like, it will just taste like a little bit like a hint of milk. Otherwise, no flavor.
And again, please feel free to try it. One of the things that Andrew will always tell you, if you don't like it, you return it and you get all of your money back. So feel encouraged to give it a go. As
you saw, I took 2 scoops, mixed it in about 8 ounces of water, and I just drank it. It's not chunky, everything is in solution, and there's nothing left in the glass. So it's unlike and that's an incredibly high quality protein. I defy you to find a higher quality protein, a purer protein, anywhere in the world. We add nothing to it.
Andrew, I know we're going to do our tour momentarily, I believe.
Right.
Just a quick mention on the energy and fat metabolism factors.
Right, that's for those of you who want something first thing in the morning, maybe when you have that little lull in the afternoon, maybe before you exercise, which is when I like this product. This is a product that's designed to deliver the components necessary for fat-burning metabolism and for energy metabolism, but also to give you a small amount of the caffeine-related alkaloids from green tea and from guarana. For me, I tend to be sensitive to caffeine from coffee, so for me, this is my way, and I also drink green tea, at least until about 2 o'clock, first half of the day, and then I have chamomile and peppermint tea. But for me, it's a way to get that subtle boost of energy without it being uncomfortable.
Should we do the tour now, Andrew?
Let's do that.
I know a lot of folks have been waiting for this.
Little bonnet.
This is not a green screen, as we're about to establish. These folks are really here working, fulfilling the orders.
No, and it's funny. They're not actors. This is our facility. This is where everything we've talked about, everything you see, has its origins here. The raw materials must come in here. They get assayed by any number of staff in terms of our quality department. That's quality control, quality assurance. That's our focus to make sure the products are as good as we intend them when we design them, that they perform exactly like that when you get them home. And then, of course, the raw materials come in from one side of the warehouse there. They move through production, and then they go to the other side of the warehouse where they leave. And on either side of the building are offices. And we have a few 100,000 square feet here, all of them covered with solar panels, and our parking lot covered with solar panels. We literally have no carbon footprint whatsoever.
Which is remarkable, really, in this day and age. I mean, what an achievement that is. Okay,
we've been doing that for 20 years, by the way. So.
A blaze trailing, I mean, honestly, business initiative, but that's the way. If we can do it like that, Andrew, we should be doing it like that.
I'm a little company. I wish that big companies would do what we do. That would be great. So, we are now out on our production floor.
Yes.
This is our packaging area. So this is where, after we make a dosage form, whether we put a powder in a bottle, whether we put powder in capsules, this is where the capsules will go into bottles, and the bottles would be finished and then put into boxes and either shipped directly to you or shipped to HSN. That's the only place our products go. We don't manufacture products for anyone else. We only make our own products. We are not a contract manufacturer. We have our own unique technology that allows us to make our products 100% pure, additive-free, and it only is going to our products. That's it. So if we walk over here, and this packaging line, it's probably about I'd say it's at least 40 yards long,
Right.
40 or 50 yards long. And this, a very high-speed packaging line if we wanted to move quickly. Right now, what we've been packaging the last few days has been Vitamin Angels.
Yes.
Because for every, and again, I said in terms of being a socially conscious company, the products we make for everyone here in America can improve the quality of our lives. These prenatal vitamins that go all around the world, and 22% of them right here in America, that saves lives, and it transforms communities. So that's something we do. Every bottle of vitamins we sell, we donate 2. Second half of the year, we'll be donating 3.
It's amazing. It's a feel-good, you know?
Well, we're doing the right thing. We're in a privileged position. As we look here, that's, we were talking before, about teas are one of the original dietary supplements.
Yeah.
Because when you make tea, there are a lot of healthy teas. You're extracting these plant-based ingredients. And those ingredients that you extract, that's a supplement. So we make teas, obviously. That's the most sophisticated tea-making machine from Japan. They're the experts in tea-making machines.
Andrew, all of these machines, a crazy question, but are they reliable? Do they break down a lot?
They're reliable, but what you need to do with all machines is you need to do preventive maintenance. So what you need to do is scheduled maintenance, preventive maintenance, like anything, like you would do on your car. But of course, there's issues that happen, and especially because our encapsulation machines, which we have, I think about a dozen of them here, just about, because we run without additives or excipients or lubricants, it's very hard on those machines. So we have to be very aggressive, and it's very costly to maintain our capsule machines because we don't use the lubricants in our powders that every other company uses.
Interesting.
But if we walk down here, this is the backside of the backside of that other room where we had the powder fill, and this is our secondary powder fill line. So I was saying before that's where we pack it, but this is our secondary powder fill line. It's a lower speed line. What we have here are 3 blenders that are bigger than the blenders we used for probably 35 years. So these 3 blenders, whether we have a 10, and I think the last one there was a 75 cubic foot blender, these blenders are all larger than the blenders we had for 35 years.
Wow.
Now to give you a sense of the efficiency, why over the last few years so many of our prices have come down, and over decades they haven't gone up, that our prior 75 cubic foot blender had a functional capacity that was really about 40 or 45. So this is really, as a 75 cubic foot blender, almost twice the size of our original largest blender that we had for decades. But then in the last year, probably a little over a year ago, we added 2 other blenders. And that's what's really transformed our efficiency here. And just quickly, this is the warehouse where things enter. So this is where, as you can see here, basically what you're looking at is a huge amount of bottles that are stacked all the way up to 45 feet high. And you're looking at things that come in and must all go through quality assurance. They all have to go through a quarantine process, and they have to be validated that they meet all the appropriate specifications. If it was a raw material powder, we have to make sure that we do all the appropriate test of it, like organoleptic testing and then some chemical testing to make sure it is exactly what it's supposed to be. But these are the blenders that have been transformational in the efficiency of what we do here. And because this building was pre-existing, and all of the beams and things in the ceiling are pre-existing, this was a feat to create. And right now, as it gets to the top, when the blender would stop up there, that's where we fill it. And at the very bottom, where you see there's a little hatch on the very bottom when it rotates back down, that's where we will attach a super sack, and that's where we empty the blender on the bottom. And that floor is metal, that's a scale. So that is where we actually weigh the materials to confirm that everything has gone exactly as it was supposed to go in the input process and the output process from the blender. And that's a 300 cubic foot blender, which is about almost 10 times larger than our previous largest blender. This is a 150 cubic foot blender, which obviously is about 4 or 5 times larger than our previous larger blender. That is, by eliminating literally, if not hundreds, thousands of blends a year, not hundreds, thousands of blends a year, that has improved our efficiency here dramatically, and that's directly demonstrated in the cost and the efficiency of our products.
How do you manage manufacturing all the different products? Because there's a lot of products in your line.
Well, it's We don't have as many products as most companies because most companies have products that I would deem not worthy of being made.
Right.
So we don't have that many products, but it requires, what do they say, it requires a village. We have a team. We have a department that deals with all the purchasing of raw materials. Then we have a department that deals with all the planning of production. We have a full production department. So like any company, there's a number of people that are very responsible for each of the disciplines that goes into making our products and making everything work on schedule, because also, unlike most companies, they make their products in a linear fashion throughout the year. What I've done is I really like to make these Today Specials have exceptional savings. So we have the burden of making most of a product in a period of 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
That's why this facility has to be so big. So when we did our Ultimate Eye Today special, literally we had to make somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 or 60 million capsules of Ultimate Eye in a couple of weeks. So, and this is one of the capsule machines that it's like a machine that I ran for years.
This is where it all started.
Yeah, I was running my own capsules back in 1979. And so I stood in front of these machines for years. And using multiple sets of rings. I've explained how they work, where this is a hopper that holds capsules. This is a hopper that holds powder. So what you need to do is the capsules are delivered to you and they're closed. You need to get them open. So this rectifies the capsules so they're all facing the same way. Then you remove the rings from here and you separate the rings. And you actually take the open side of the rings there. So the rings are now separated.
Yes.
You move this hopper over. Oops. Has to be in place. You move the hopper over, you mount it on that little pin. You move the hopper over, and it's going to fill with powder.
Wow.
And then you take, once it's filled with powder, you put the rings back together again. And then once the rings are back together, you'll put them in this closing station, the way those rings are there. And the pins will push down. You can sort of see the pins in there, if we move this out. Those,
I see it.
Those pins push on each of the individual capsules and seal them up. And that's how you make capsules. And then what you do is afterwards, then you do that and you eject the capsules down.
So who taught you how to do that?
Oh, this is back, I was at a friend of mine had a facility and I was doing some consulting for him and talking to doctors on his behalf and doing some education for him. And he let me come in and run his machines and make my own product back in 1979. So that's how it all started. So, and then we created our own facility after that.
Gosh.
So it was hard to believe.
That's how it began.
It was 38 years ago, and here we are 38 years later, and would have never in a million years dreamed that this could be our facility. It's better than I would ever have dreamed having. I don't think there's another facility like it anywhere in the world. In terms of all of the newness of all the equipment, everything is stainless steel equipment. We do everything as if we were making the most sophisticated pharmaceutical products, even though none of my products are drugs or pharmaceutical products.
Wow. Well, it's always a joy to be able to take a tour, to understand and see everything in action. It is a remarkable, remarkable thing. I mean, you must be very proud.
I am, well, it's almost, I don't have enough time to take a deep breath and be proud. When I read the reviews, I'm proud of the reviews, I'm proud of the experience people have with the products. But again, I think it goes back to what my parents said in that whole Satchel Paige quote. I probably don't stop long enough to take great pride in it. I'm proud to show this facility off because I think in so doing, it gives you greater confidence in what we provide. And what we provide is a level of efficacy and a level of trust that isn't available when you're purchasing products in stores. You don't get to see where those products are made. And we make sure that everything about what we do, from our labels being full disclosure to just my availability to answer questions, that I've talked about this the other day, that we have a customer care center that in the day of the internet, they've been going away and fewer people are available to answer phones. We have more people in our customer care center than ever before. Wow. And that's simply because we want to make sure that we're available to answer all your questions or your doctor's questions if they have questions. Are we supposed to be at that table? Or?
We walked to the wrong table, Andrew. That's
my goodness.
fault.
Well, it was one of two.
50-50 chance. We're in Vegas. I gambled on the wrong one.
Flip a coin.
So let's go to Ultimate Friendly Flora. If you've watched any of Andrew's shows in the past that I've had the privilege of presenting, you'll know I feel very strongly about this product. There's a lot of us, Andrew, who struggle a lot with our digestion.
And most of us don't realize that when we think about these microorganisms, the friendly flora in our world and in our lives, there's actually more of those friendly organisms, or should be, than we have cells in our body. Unfortunately, so much of what we do, the way we live, again, it's sort of our modern lifestyle. Our modern lifestyle bears very little resemblance in terms of how we live, what we do, how we eat, what we eat, bears very little resemblance to what we were designed to experience. We are such a capable being, such a capable organism, that we have transformed our world. I mean, and we're literally transforming the planet. So unfortunately, with transforming our world, we live in a way that doesn't really favor our best health, that doesn't favor the best function of our digestive system. So whether it's all the things that the digestive issues and problems we might have that forces us to take drugs or medications or other issues, those drugs and medications undermine the population of friendly flora in our digestive system. It should go without saying then that our digestive system isn't going to work well.
Right.
Because a healthy digestive system requires friendly flora. So whether it's nutrient absorption or just simply the comfortable passage of food through our body, friendly flora is an absolute must. Again, this is a product that is virtually perfectly reviewed. We originally started with a product called Friendly Flora. Then we came up with our Ultimate Friendly Flora. What we did here is we simply increased the potency. Our Friendly Flora is 5 billion colony-forming units. Our Ultimate Friendly Flora is 25 billion colony-forming units per capsule. 25 billion, I think there are, what, 7 billion people on the planet?
Right.
So 25 billion is a large number, and 25 billion is a good standard number for a friendly flora product. 5 billion is as well, and the bargain is that with our Ultimate Friendly Flora, it's just a little bit more than twice as expensive, and you get 5 times as much potency.
So then where do we go with Digest-Assure? Where does that focus?
Well, again, if we just look at how our digestive system functions, the friendly flora, the probiotics as they call them,
yes,
they populate and they are part of a healthy digestive system. Whether we take antacids or proton pump inhibitors or H2 antagonists,
right,
which are these things for GERD and acid, those affect the environment and affect our population of friendly flora. But there's another component to how healthy digestion works. When we eat food, we're putting all this foreign matter. I actually say that the most toxic thing we do every day, if we don't smoke, the most toxic thing we do every day, even if we eat a wonderfully healthy diet, is force our body to endure foreign matter being put in it. Of course, I say this partly tongue-in-cheek because we have to eat to survive, but we're putting foreign matter inside our body. And we are requiring our body figure out at 98.6 degrees, not at some extreme temperatures, to do this rigorous chemical work to break down, other animals. We could be eating chicken or fish or beef, to break down other animals or break down other plants and find a way to extract what we need from those foods and then get rid of them before they're a problem. So eating is a potential problem, and enzymes are the key to digesting those foods in the environment within our body. And as we get older, stressed, we don't secrete the level, quality of enzymes that we did previously. And all Digest-Assure it's enzymes, 100% enzymes. So both play a very easy to understand role in how our digestive system functions.
And I think, in terms of digestive issues, and I would encourage you again to please read some reviews online at hsn.com. This is an area where many, many, many people are very loyal to Andrew in terms of what these products have helped accomplish for them.
And I think we also have the digestion kit available.
Is that the 3-pack?
Yeah, it's a 3-pack. I think it's the complete digestion kit, which has our friendly flora, not Ultimate, but our friendly flora. It also has Digest-Assure in it, and it also has our aloe vera in it.
So you get everything.
And aloe vera is a wonderful, soothing component for our digestive system. We also have available our ginger extract.
Ginger.
A lot of people rely on ginger. We're actually going to be working on doing a ginger tea in the future.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Because ginger is a tasty tea, like a ginger lemon tea is a great. Just like peppermint tea is great after a meal, it's what I tend to reach for. But also ginger is wonderfully healthy, and ginger contains, they say ginger is Mother Nature's sort of natural anti-nauseant, but ginger is something that is soothing to the digestive system as well.
Well, for thousands of years in Chinese medicine, ginger's been used, hasn't it?
Exactly for that, and here's a crazy ginger root. They look like well, they are living things, but they truly look like a living thing. So, and Muriel at home, she often will either crush or cut up or dice up fresh ginger, and even if she's making chicken or something like that, sprinkle it on. Often use it in tea that will make a hot tea at home using fresh ginger.
So ginger is available if you'd like to order again, even though we only have about 12 minutes left of our show. Geez Louise.
How did that happen?
I don't know.
So we've been talking for an hour and 48 minutes.
It just goes. It just goes like that. So let's head over this way to Cholestericare.
Right.
And I do want to save at least a minute at the end of the show. I have a question for Andrew.
And there was a good question on Cholestericare amongst the questions that were asked. And so many of the things we're talking about are questions that I've been asked.
Yes.
But if you're taking our Choco Nuvo, each piece of Choco Nuvo is the equivalent of a capsule of Cholestericare.
Okay.
Cholestericare is plant sterols. Choco Nuvo is plant sterol esters. They both have the same effectiveness. They are both at the same level of potency. So it was a question. So you could use them interchangeably. For those of you who like having a piece of chocolate with each meal, then you don't have to have your Cholestericare separately anymore. So it's something, they are the exact same mechanism of action, and they both are exceptionally effective at lowering our total cholesterol and our LDL, our bad cholesterol. Many people have told me that they struggle to remember which is good, which is bad. LDL is the bad one. I always say, if you can't remember, just remember lousy. So LDL is lousy. HDL is the good, and you know, people say the VLDL, that's very lousy. So, and HDL is the happy cholesterol. Right. That's the one you want high, HDL. So, but in terms of total and LDL cholesterol, you could have a significant reduction. One capsule of Cholestericare, say with each meal, maybe 2 capsules at a very large meal. All you need to do is take a minimum of 2 capsules daily, and what it can deliver is reductions of 10, 15, 20% or more. There's research clinical studies that show when you combine it with a healthy diet, high in fiber, lower saturated fat and cholesterol, you can get reductions of 40%, which we've seen in many, many reviews.
Andrew, is cholesterol and cholesterol issues associated with a certain time frame in your life where it starts to become more serious?
Not necessarily. Cholesterol in some of us can get worse as we get older, but like most things, as we get older, whatever, say if our numbers are a little out of line when we're young, that deviation becomes more meaningful and more problematic as we get older. Right. Certainly, there are a lot of things more important than cholesterol in terms of cardiovascular risk, like our blood pressure, like our blood sugar in my mind, like our overweight and obesity. Cholesterol becomes very meaningful at its extremes when it becomes significantly high. What's wonderful about Cholestericare is it can deliver such a significant reduction without side effect. So it could reduce, say if your cholesterol is 225, and it might not be enough to warrant taking a drug or medication, but it warrants concern. And your LDL might be 130, 140 or so. With using Cholestericare, you can reduce that, say, by 15 or 20%. All of a sudden, that cholesterol level could be 175, 180, 185, and your LDL can suddenly be 100 to 110, which dramatically will change your doctor's perspective on your cardiovascular risk, particularly in light of if you have other factors in play like blood sugar or blood pressure, things like that. So it's something that's exceedingly effective. It works perfectly, just as Choco Nuvo does, with any cholesterol-lowering drug. The principal ones I think most people take are the statin drugs. Statin drugs work as an inhibitor of the HMG-CoA reductase in the liver. It inhibits cholesterol synthesis. Zetia works on sort of the metabolism of cholesterol in terms of the liver, so in terms of our digestive system. So Zetia is a different mechanism, but again, this works through your digestive system, so you don't have to worry about it having a negative impact with any of those drugs. What I've mentioned a couple of times, it's worthy of discussing with your doctor. Yes. Don't do this on your own, but talk to your doctor. If you take a statin drug, there's great research that says whatever benefit you're getting from that statin drug, especially if you're taking one of those with a longer half-life, like what is it, I think it's rosuvastatin, Crestor, a couple of the others, that you could go every other day and your numbers won't change. So, and when you go every other day, you're having your dose, you're dramatically reducing risk of side effect. With Zetia, the typical dosage, recommended dosage is 10 milligrams. I think that's the only pill that's available, perhaps, that you could cut that in half at 5 milligrams, and I think the clinical studies have said that your cholesterol number will not really change significantly. Again, having the dose dramatically reduces side effects. So again, talk to your doctor about this. It's not necessarily something that your doctor might even be aware of, but there is research out there, and because I'm always drowning in research, I might as well share it. And again, don't act upon it on your own, just talk to your doctor about it.
If you're looking to lower your cholesterol, certainly investigate this product. And you know, I think for a lot of us, when we think about reviews and people commenting on something, it is human nature that the most of us leave negative reviews, or we're more open to complain about something if it's not right. Well, with Andrew, it's the complete reverse of that. Folks, there are thousands of people that say, oh my gosh, I have to share my story. And this is a great example.
Oh no, Cholestericare is, in terms of reviews, it's one of those products where the numbers, the numbers don't lie. And also, with all the pressure the FDA had from the drug companies to not approve a natural ingredient to lower total and LDL cholesterol, for the FDA to do that, all it speaks is to the reliability of that ingredient, the trustworthiness of the ingredient, the safety of the ingredient. So it's a natural product. It doesn't come with any side effects or warnings, but it's a wonderful way to do something that we all seek. But most of the time when we have to seek outside to fix it, we're fixing it with a drug or medication, which comes with side effects and issues, and we want to do that, again, as carefully, cautiously, as judiciously as possible. And many people aren't candidates for taking the statin drugs because of the way they affect them. Also, if you take a statin drug, it's a HMG-CoA reductase inhibitor, that enzyme in your liver. In so doing, it's also an inhibitor of CoQ10 synthesis. So you're synthesizing less CoQ10 necessary for muscle function, energy function, cellular function. So again, you should be supplementing coenzyme Q10 if you are taking a statin drug, at least 200 milligrams daily. Absolutely, positively.
So let's end the show with another one of really the big hitters, something that everybody seemingly adores. Well, it keeps things going, Andrew.
I was going to say it's appropriate. It's appropriate to end the show with Fibromucil, because usually it's from that other end that we experience the joyful benefits of this product. And I don't say that lightly. If you read the reviews of Fibromucil, people have a love affair with this product, just as they say do with circulation vein support. But talk about a fiber product that will not upset your stomach, that will not cause bloating, will not cause gas, and all it does is gently helps move things through you in a comfortable fashion, helps support regularity in a comfortable fashion, because it's hard or impossible to be regular without adequate fiber intake. And one of the defining characteristics of the American diet is inadequate fiber intake. Also, if you want your numbers with Cholestericare, if you want to add another 5% or so in the reduction that you get with Cholestericare, every time you take a capsule of Cholestericare, take 1 or 2 capsules of Fibromucil. Cholestericare kind of acts like a sponge. It really blocks the absorption of the cholesterol in your body, the blocks the reabsorption of bile. And what Fibromucil does acts as like a broom, sweeping it out. So between the two, you get even better cholesterol reduction and an even greater improvement in terms of your cardiovascular risk profile.
So, Andrew, as we come to the end of the show, there is a question I want to ask you.
Uh-oh.
Okay. If you could travel back 38 years, right, what would the Andrew Lessman of today say to the Andrew Lessman who is just starting out? What would be the advice that you would give that Andrew Lessman?
That's a great question, and I would have no doubt about the answer. That we talked about this show initially, we talked about stress and sort of having conviction about having a path in life. That I had conviction, I had a path, but the world is a difficult place. And what is it in Shakespeare? Surviving the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. That life can be harsh, life can be difficult. And what probably the most important thing I could say is just keep the faith. Just hang in there, because a lot of those big companies out there targeted us. And sometimes you just have to keep the faith and have confidence that if you do it right, that you're going to survive and you're going to do well. So that's what I try to say that when I speak to students, when I speak to young people, that I say whatever you do, you just have to do it with conviction, do it with passion. If you have doubts, put them on the back burner.
Yeah.
Let the world tell you if what you're doing is correct or not. So that's what I would say to myself, just as I try to say it to everybody.
And I think that comes through. I think if there's one thing to take away from any show that you watch with Andrew is the passion is there, the conviction is there, the absolute pursuit of delivering the perfect product. Andrew is so involved when it comes to your opinion, your attitude, your response to this. Knowing Andrew as I do behind the screen, he's exactly the same as he is on TV. That's what you are, Andrew. And it's good for all of us.
That's what my mom, at her birthday party a few years ago, I had said that my mom was once interviewed and asked what is she most proud of, and she said, well, that through all the years and the growth of his company, he hasn't changed at all. He's exactly the same. And then they asked her, what are you most disappointed about your son? And he'd go, well, throughout all he's done, he hasn't changed at all. Again, my parents, this is their doing. We are all the handiwork of our parents, and I was blessed with great parents. So and they gave me a healthy dose of humility. So, well, thanks to them.
Mr. Andrew Lessman, from all of us here, we
thanks.
thank you again.
Thank you.
It's always fun to do this. And when are you back at HSN?
Not back till sometime after the 4th of July in July, sort of the middle of July.
Oh, it's a while then.
It's a while, yep. So we take a little break, try to catch up. We might try to do an online event where we answer all your questions, which I always love to do. So that might be coming up in the next month or two.
Well, even though Andrew's not here until July, of course, all of the wonderful products are available at these special prices while supplies last, and of course, until the end of the visit. Well, from the entire team here in Henderson, Nevada, Andrew, again, thank you, sir.
And we should all be grateful to the whole team here in Henderson, Nevada, at my company at HSN, who make these broadcasts possible, because we take it for granted, but they come off without a hitch. And this is satellite uplink to Florida and to all your homes. It's amazing, amazing.
And the actors did an amazing job, didn't they?
The actors, yes.
They were seamless. Of course, if you want
some Academy Awards being given out, yes.
Folks, from all of us here, again, thank you so much. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time here on the Monday Night Show.
Well, you have tuned in at the right time here at HSN. Not only do we have your fabulous Today's Special and your final presentation, but at 9 o'clock, it is also Customer Appreciation Month, and that means we get to give things away. And in honor of Customer Appreciation Month, we're actually donating in honor of Laura Duran $1,000 to the Tampa Humane Society, and they will actually be getting $1,000 as part of our HSN Cares charity giveaway. Of course, the Humane Society of Tampa